Hello.
Hi, Ella.
How are you? Gosh, you have a sultry voice, and I have not heard you say my name in so long. It feels good to hear you say my name. How are you?
I'm doing great. What are you?
I am doing really well. I'm super excited to chat with you today, and thank you so much for making the time. You're probably one of the busiest people I know. So we'll just jump right in. So I'm going to begin like we begin every podcast. We'll kick it off. Who are you? How do we know each other? And where can people find you online?
All right. Well, I'm Jessica Alexander. I met you, Ella, when I was in Alabama, and we worked together. You were my manager with Diageo.
And where can people find you online?
Well, you can definitely find me on Instagram at Jessica C. Alexander. That's going to be the easiest place to find me.
Thank you so much for coming in. I think I'm so excited to speak with you and see what you've been up to since the last time we worked together 7 years ago, by the way. Holy moly.
Oh, wow.
7 years ago. Yeah. I guess I'm just going to kick it off with the question that kind of started this whole conversation, which is, what makes your typical day less than typical?
I think more than anything, what makes my day less typical than everyone else is just managing all these different projects that have so many different layers to them.
So what do you mean you're managing projects? Like what does that mean? Like what do you do for work?
Okay, so I focus now heavily on brand strategy, and I have two different sets of clientele. So I have one set of clients who are working more so on the business end, and then I have another set of one-on-one clients who are more so pageant contestants. So whereas I'm building their pageant brand or I'm building their business brand, and those are essentially the same process, but like we're looking for two different outcomes. So there's that. And then on top of that, I'm still writing. So I wrote a book back in 2017 called Boss Up, Pursue Your Purpose with Confidence. So I'm doing promotions for the book and just making sure that I continue to sell that. And then I have an event that I host called Boss Babes Brunch Tour that has been put on hold because of COVID, because I can't travel as freely as I would like. But even now, just doing preparations for the tour for 2021. And so there's that. And then also doing some virtual type classes and digital resources for people who may not be ready for a one-on-one investment, if you will. So something a little more affordable and on demand that I can provide to people who are looking to enhance their brand or start their brand. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I missed something, but that's what I'm working on now.
Yeah, that's a lot. So just to clarify for everyone who doesn't know who you are, you own your own company.
Yes.
Like these are things that you're doing yourself. You don't work for someone else. So you wrote, that's a lot, by the way, to unpack. That is a lot to unpack just hearing you say it, let alone living it. I mean, what I just heard, throwing a whole bunch of darts at the wall here, see what sticks. You wrote a book, you're a founder, you're a CEO, you speak to people, you do something with pageants, I'm hearing. So we got the pageant situation, right? That in and of itself is a lot. And then the consulting, damn, that is a lot happening. The pageant world is very interesting to me. So, you, for those of, again, for the eavesdroppers who might not know who you are, you were Miss Black Alabama USA, right? And that was right around the time that you and I met, actually. And then you're still staying within the pageant world, moving on. And then it's transgressed into you making your own businesses, it sounds like, which is incredible. How is that? What is that like? It sounds like you're juggling a lot.
It's hard to juggle sometimes, but I know that for like the industries that I'm in, especially when it comes to the pageant coaching actually all industries, I know that I'm in, I know that there are women who look like me who need it. And if you look at the statistics, especially in the pageant world, where especially being in the South, like when you were in Alabama at that time, as far as like major pageant organizations like Miss America, Miss USA, Miss Universe for the state of Alabama, you couldn't even count on one hand how many Black women have walked away with that title. And just a lot of misinformation or lack of information in certain communities when it comes to pageantry. And although there's like a stereotype for pageant life that it's just, glitz and glamour, get your hair and makeup done, be cute, and go on about your day. Where I found a big amount of information missing for that could really benefit, especially a lot of Black girls and Black women, was the amount of scholarship money that they were missing out on. Just a fun fact for all of my people who are not familiar with pageants, the Miss America organization is actually the number one provider of scholarships for women in the country. So, like, out of all the organizations that provide women scholarship dollars, the Miss America organization collectively provides the most for women across the entire country. And you go to Miss Alabama, or you go to Miss Alabama USA, or you even go to some of these local preliminaries, and you'll see maybe 5% of the contestants being Black or none at all. So I really just wanted to not only be able to coach girls to win whatever title they're going after, but also to provide information to these young girls who, may not have family to provide them with scholarships and may not get all the grants that they could so they can afford their college life without having to work full time. So just really wanted to provide that type of information in the pageant world. I knew that was necessary. And then also, I remember when I first decided that I wanted to found my company, Operation Evolve, and go into different networking events, I was speaking with someone who was a little bit more prominent, had a little bit more recognition in the city of Montgomery. And I remember mid-sentence just sharing a little bit about my business and what I was hoping to do with it. Like, she legitimately found someone else that she wanted to talk to and walked away from me mid-sentence. And I thought, people go into these types of situations where they're looking to network and looking to connect. And, people just look you up and down, make assumptions. And if they don't find any immediate value in what it is that you're saying, they walk away from you. That's why I started Boss Babes Brunch, because I really wanted a space for women to be able to, form real relationships and get valuable information without feeling like they needed to have it all together.
Yeah, I mean, what I find, okay, so I'm from California, right? And so most of my eavesdroppers are from California. So I want to give some context really quickly on what you just said and take it a little bit back to what you just said about Miss Alabama and how back in 2013 when I was living in Alabama, which wasn't that long ago, 7 years ago, right? And when you were crowned Miss Black Alabama, it's like, okay, why do we need this Black pageant? You're saying, okay, we never had one. Now, people in California, just so you have context here, in California, the Black population in California is 6%. 6%, 6 out of 100, oh, wow. Right? In Alabama, it's 27%, significantly higher, more than triple the Black population. And for me, what I found kind of interesting was it was the first time where I lived in an environment where there were a lot of people of color around me, Black people around me. I grew up in Orange County, so you want to take it to Orange County in California. While California's population is 6%, Orange County's Black population is less than 1%. So for me growing up, so a lot of my friends growing up, for them, they look around, they don't see a lot of Black people. So they hear, well, there's never been a Black Miss Alabama, and they're kind of like, well, why would there be? There's not a lot of Black people around. And it's like, wait. Okay. I get that, right? But if we look at California, I mean, we have a very diverse population. Miss California has been all shapes, sizes, colors, as we've seen. And there are particular nuances when you get, and I'm saying this as a California who moved there, right? There are particular nuances that come with like, okay, wait a minute. We have probably one of the highest Black populations percentage-wise in the country. Okay, being in Alabama with 27%, the country average of Black population is 12%. So Alabama has double the country's average of Black population. So to not have representation at the pageantry level, I'm sorry, I have to say there's no way that that's incidental. this is exactly why there are organizations like Miss Alabama or Miss Black Alabama. Sorry, I probably said that incorrectly. Because it's like, yeah, we deserve some representation, and we're not getting it from the largest scholarship federation, if you will, in the country. I mean, this is 2013. I've always, I'm very fortunate, whether it was my ignorance or whatever. I've never felt like I didn't have an opportunity because of my skin color. Now, whether or not that's 100% true, I have no way of knowing that. But what I can say is I never felt like I couldn't do a pageant because of my skin color. I never felt like I couldn't be in a play or be Peter Pan in a play if I wanted to be. I always felt growing up in SoCal that I could do whatever I want, whenever I want, and nobody's going to say anything about it. In terms of my skin color. When I moved to Alabama, it was the first time that I experienced, I was told I could not do things because of my skin color. And I think about the implications for a child who's growing up and she says, well, I want to be Miss Alabama. Oh, honey, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for you. Right. I just, because of your skin color, you're telling a little girl this. So you're not even saying, oh, it's because of your weight or because of your background. You're telling a little girl, oh, it just blows my mind. It really blew my mind that in 2013, this was the open dialogue. Like, no, you can't do that because you're Black. I'm like, wait, what? What? Like, oh, you were a Theta? Oh yeah, you would have never been a Theta at University of Alabama. They don't allow Black girls. What? Like, what? I'm a founding sister at my chapter, so I can't imagine for you, Jessica. So I'm just so impressed with like what you've been able to build. So for you now, you moved to Chicago. What does that look like? How is that?
I'm not exclusive as to like who I want to serve, but I just know who needs me most. And I'm not ashamed of saying that I want to heavily focus on Black women when it comes to building brands, because as you were saying earlier about not feeling like you have opportunities, I can say that I went to a pretty diverse schools growing up. And honestly, it wasn't until I was in college where I realized, like, where it was more evident that, okay, there are some real issues. Because for me growing up, I was never given the impression of what I couldn't do. I went to performing arts schools. I overachieved in everything that I did. I studied music for the most part growing up and was always, one of the best. And I just carried that into my adulthood. But honestly, being in college and being an adult was like one of those eye openers for me. But even more so, going back into communities with my mindset of you can do anything, and recognizing a lot of the barriers that are placed in communities of color, Black communities, that I was not aware of growing up because I didn't share that specific experience. So what I recognize in my adulthood is that there are far more issues versus just like, oh, you don't know about it, but just really seeing the legal barriers that have been put in place, seeing the infrastructure barriers that have been put in place to ensure that certain information and opportunities are not presented to Black communities. And I believe that it's part of what my purpose is on this planet, is to make sure that people don't have to continue the cycle. And it just goes to that old phrase that you hear, your aunties and your grandmama say, is that when you know better, you do better.
The only person I've ever heard say that is my dad, who's from the South. So I didn't even realize that was like a Southern saying until you just said it, because nobody's ever said that. My dad has said it my whole life. Like, well, you know better, you do better. And it's so true. It's so simple and so true. For you, what is a leadership quality that you possess that other leaders in your past perhaps did not?
This is something that has developed over time, so I want to put that disclaimer out there. But when I decide that I'm going to do something, I just do it. And I'm about to poorly quote Richard Branson, but he has a quote that talks about, if someone gives you an opportunity and you're not really sure how to do it, say yes and figure out how to do it along the way. And I think that people get so caught up in being perfect, and especially nowadays since social media is alive and well, You don't want to be embarrassed or you don't want to come across looking stupid. If you can kind of put that on the shelf and focus on the things that you really want to do for yourself and for your life, you'll find it a lot easier to move forward with a lot of the things that you want to do. When I have people who come up to me and they're thanking me for hosting an event, or they read my book and it, gave them enough inspiration to move forward with something, it reaffirms that I've moved in the right direction. Lastly, there's a woman that I follow. I think she's from California as well, but her name is Lisa Nichols, and she's like a pretty famous speaker and coach. But one thing I remember her saying in one of her presentations was, I stopped asking for permission and I gave notice.
Hot damn. Oh my God. I feel like I don't quite have chills, but I felt like a chill in my spine where I'm just like, woo, I feel invigorated. I could see why the Boss Babe brunch tours were very successful, and I'm so sorry. Not that it's my fault, but I want to show some sympathy and compassion for the fact that you start this great entity that takes off in 2018, and it just completely gets truncated by 2020.
I think that 2020 for a lot of people was a blessing in disguise. Like, for the past 2 years, I've been on the road heavy, and I really didn't even recognize how exhausted I was until everything shut down. Because on top of, preparing for the 2020 tour, I moved to Chicago in February, and, I had a lot going on, but I think it forced me to slow down and really reevaluate what direction I wanted my business to go in, and to really just take some time to rest. So what I've done to stay focused and stay motivated once I kind of got out of my funk zone is to just sit down and think about what I can do now to, one, generate income, because sister got to eat, but secondly, to continue to nurture the audience that I've been growing over the past 2 years on the tour, but 4 years since the event started in Montgomery in 2016. So what I've been doing was creating some types of virtual opportunities, so some virtual workshops, and I've been really focusing a lot more on one-on-one coaching clientele, and that's been really great. I've been writing another book, which hopefully will be done in December. All in all, 2020 has been a great year.
That's beautiful. I really do like what you just said, and it's a perspective I'm trying to take. I'm naturally very pessimistic. Okay, so there's like glass half empty, right? And then there's glass half full. And I say the glass is bigger than it needs to be. So it's not that I'm negative necessarily, but I'm the one who calls out the problems. I'm like, yeah, the problem isn't the liquid. The problem is the glass. Like, you should have used a smaller glass. So that's kind of how I feel. And so when I look at COVID, I mean, yeah, it's very easy for me to point out all the issues, but you're right. I have slept for the first time in my entire life, and it's been really nice, really. But yeah, there are so many other aspects of COVID that I just don't appreciate. That, like, it's inspiring to hear you talk about how 2020 doesn't have to be so negatively looked at. And absolutely, myself included, you're freaking right. You're right. We are going to look back and go, wow, because of this reset, because of this setback, because I was forced to leave a job that I actually hated anyway. Not my case. I'm speaking for other people. I still have my job. I'm very blessed. It takes sometimes hindsight to go, I needed that. I needed that more than I realized. And for you, the fact that you've been able to catch up and already reflect and say, I needed to rest, it's a testament to how forward thinking you are, how much of a leader you are, and how you take a strategic overview and maintain the optimistic spirit that is required to be a leader. So I think it's great. I think you're just doing amazing things. And I'm excited for you, and I'm honored. It's super cool. As you look, though, at some of the projects that you're working on, and you're all over the place, and like you said, a sister's got to eat, right? I mean, holy Like I struggle to wrap my head around being an entrepreneur, and I've said this profusely. Like, I'm just afraid of it. I'm afraid of falling on my face. I'm afraid of not knowing when my next paycheck is coming in. I know that there's a lot of beauty to being an entrepreneur, but that's the caveat, of course. So for you, are there things that hold you back? Are there people that hold you back? Like, is there something that kind of makes you go, all right, I need to pump the brakes? Or, do you deal with that at all, or do you just really go for it?
I think that everyone goes through it because, like, as you're going to, here's another Southern phrase for your West Coast audience, but in the church they say new levels, new devils. But I think that at every single
I'm sorry. Stop. New levels, new devils? Oh
yes,
my God,
ma'am.
this is the most genius thing I've heard all day. New levels, new devils. It is so true, Jessica. I'm sorry that I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that just blew my mind because I'm going to be using that a lot. See, Southern churches know what's up. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm glad that I was raised. No, I don't need anything devil going on my body. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Back to it. Every door that opens, there's a new, problem at your. Go ahead.
Exactly. You'll get to like your next level and you're like, okay, cool, I made it. But then it's like fear, doubt, all those things, they kind of creep in and tell us what we can't do because literally you're trying to go somewhere that you've never been before. So, even if you've seen Oprah do it or you've seen someone that you may not even have any relationship do it, if you haven't personally experienced it, it's scary for you. And at the end of the day, you have to talk yourself into doing things a lot. It's literally an everyday conversation that you have to have with yourself because if you rest on yesterday's success or yesterday's motivation, then you may not make it to the next day.
So the only thing really holding you back is ourselves, right?
Right.
And I hate that though. It's like, ugh, I don't want to take responsibility for this. Yeah, that's what's holding me back, myself. My own damn self saying, you are not smart enough to start your own business. You don't even know what business you want to start, and you don't know anything, and you don't have a graduate degree, and you didn't do this. But nobody's ever said those things to me. I would love for someone to have, I wish a mother would. Okay.
Right. Say it to my face.
Mm-hmm. Because maybe then I'd say, oh, really? Let me show you. But I don't need someone to beat me up because I beat myself up enough. So on that note, I mean, in all sincerity, I love talking to people who have started their own businesses. And I've had several business owners on this podcast just because I love business. I love people and I love money. So this is perfect for business. I do have something in the back of my head that I've been wanting to do for years. I mean, since I was probably a child, I do have this looming idea of something I want to do. And the podcast is somewhat within that arena. If anything, the podcast would be dipping my toe into that space of where I want to be. But I am just so deathly afraid for so many reasons because, one, I'm not even going to say what it is because I don't even feel comfortable even saying what I want to do. I've only told maybe 3-4 people in my life. And it's something that I haven't seen done before. I've always wanted, I haven't seen it done before. And so I'm just so scared of even trying to do it because I've never seen anyone do it the way that I think it could be done in a more impactful way. And so I have this idea, and it's not about the money. I think it would probably make me no money in the first 3, 4, 5 years. I'd probably be spending more money than actually making money, but it's something that I truly believe that our society could use and needs. And so for me, speaking to you as a fellow potential entrepreneur, what advice could you give to someone such as myself who maybe wants to start their own business, maybe wants to start their own platform, but just doesn't even know where to start because you feel like you don't have the time, you feel like you don't deserve it, you feel like you're stretched so thin, you feel like you're going to be laughed at, you're afraid of maybe your past, right? Because that's the other thing is like, you said it, social media is alive and real. And so it is very vulnerable to share your life on social media. And then you're dealing with kind of like opinions of others that we before didn't have to deal with that asshole from high school having opinions on our lives. If he had opinions on our lives, we didn't hear it. He's talking about us at the dinner table and it's not our business. But now with social media, it's a lot easier for communication to travel for better or for worse. And so what advice, on a final note, would you give to someone who maybe in my position, hasn't taken that next, doesn't even know how to take the first step in starting their own business? Like, what would you say?
All right, so I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and then I'm going to give you the advice. So the first question is, the people that you're worried about, how many of your bills are they currently paying?
Well, in my business model, if it would be the public opinion. My idea is a little radical.
No,
it hasn't been done. So that's where I get nervous. I'm like, ew, is this even something that, like, you know what I mean? I'm not worried about my community. In fact, I feel like I would have the support of my community more than anyone else. It's the rest of the world if I were to try to. So you're right. Nobody. But that's where I'm like, oh, I can't make this business because the world isn't ready. I think my community would be ready first before the world.
How would you feel if a year from now you didn't do anything and you looked on social media and someone was executing the thing that you were so scared to put out?
Okay, Jessica, sit the fuck down. You just made me so angry. Hearing you ask me that question and envisioning that happening pisses me off right off the bat.
Yeah, it doesn't make me sick.
Off. It makes me pissed. It makes me, one, I guess I would feel a little less original, but I would almost wonder, like, did this person steal my idea? I've never seen anyone do this. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I would be so mad. I would be so upset. And that's
why I'm so happy. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, like, not saying that I'm, like, the originator of all things brunch, because I've been to plenty of brunches before, but I promise you there were I didn't see not a single women's empowerment brunch tour before 2018, and 2019 came around and I saw so many brunch tours, so many tours. So that's why I was glad that I was started. So there's nothing wrong being in the starting where you are, because I didn't have the audience. I didn't have, like, there are people out there who have like 100K plus followers who, people, hang off of their every word, even though most of it's very much basic. But, you've got people who have these huge followings, but they don't have any balls. If you pardon, it's a little late here in Chicago, so they don't have any balls. So they, they stay in their safe zone. And then once they see a proven model, now they can hop on it and they already have an audience, and they can, kind of, they see the model has been proven to be successful. They can kind of ride off of that. And that's what happens when you are the first to do something. It takes a certain level of courage that not many people have. So for you, and for anyone who is wanting to do something and afraid and don't know where to start, I would say the first place to go is to just kind of do a brain dump and, write out all those ideas, which I think that you probably already have done. You think about this on a consistent basis, I can tell already, just by how you're talking. So I know it's something that's been on your mind. It's something that you're already passionate about. So then you need to figure out, the audience that you're trying to reach, doing just a little bit of small research, maybe, asking the people that you want to serve, asking the people who are, in their network, and seeing what their ideas are, seeing what is currently being done, doing the research, seeing what's being done in your city, figuring out what it is that they're looking for and where the gaps are. And even when it comes to money, a lot of people think that because they're first starting out that there's no money to be made. And these organizations, the government, these big companies, like, they have money to spend, and people have money to spend. So I always say, don't count anyone's pocket. A lot of people think they need to go hire out all these coaches. And even though, like, people hire me, for people who might not be ready to invest at a high level, every single city has a small business development center. There's an organization called SCORE, and they provide business mentoring, and it's completely free. You can get someone who is local, or you can get someone who is, halfway across the country, and you can schedule ongoing meetings. I would find out if there are any people who are in the industry that you want to be in. See if you can set up some calls, or do an email exchange, do a virtual coffee chat, just to get some insight, have your questions ready. But, you have to start. And once you get in position to start taking some action steps, it just starts snowballing. So for me, I have a project that I'm working on, and it's in an industry that I'm have never been a part of. And I feel very passionate about doing it because I too have done the research and see that there's a gap in the market for it. And, I've spoken with a couple people, and they've given me links to pay for their course. I'm not ready to pay for a course yet, so I'm still interviewing different people in the industry and just asking some questions that will help me, decide which direction I want to go into. But the key to all of this is to stay moving. You have to keep going. So that's what I say to everyone, if you can do one thing, because everyone's like, oh, I need to do A through Z today. But no, if I can just do one thing every single day to get me one step closer, and that's good. And sometimes that one thing is just making one phone call and just be like, okay, that's good for the day. Or, reading one article, or watching one webinar on YouTube, or doing a little bit of research. But literally the key is to stay in motion.
All right. Stay in motion. That is a perfect note to end this on. I love it. You're right. I'm inspired. I'm not kidding. I think I might dedicate some time tomorrow, and I've never reached out to people. There are people in the space that there are individuals in the space. I don't like how they do things, and that's why I'm like, we should be refreshing this. We should be refreshing this. So but without telling them that, right? It's
right. I was going to say, be very careful. Be very careful about how you share it, because, originality is it's a rare commodity these days. And I also will say, because I posted this on my page the other day, and it was something that one of my speakers from Huntsville was telling me, was that, one of the biggest lessons she learned, and she had been in business for over 30 years, was just be careful with who you share ideas with. Because at the end of the day, every single listening ear is not like, oh, that's amazing, you go for it. They're like, oh, repeat that, say it again. And unfortunately, there are people who have resources but no originality. And then unfortunately, the people with a lot of originality don't have any resources. So, the two cross paths, and you'll find someone snatching your idea right from under you and won't bat an eyelash about it. So it's not always the case, but I always tell people to be careful about who they open their mouth to, because everyone does not have your back.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for the time today. This was so wonderful. And honestly, even if it didn't inspire anyone else, it inspired me. And that's why I started this podcast. So I am just so grateful. And I have a new nuggets. I mean, hopefully everybody's got new nuggets. So what did we say? We said,
when you know better, you do better.
When you know better, you do better. New levels, new devils. Oh, you said, this was cute. You said, it's late in Chicago. I'm going to start saying that. Oh, excuse my potty mouth. It's late. It's late in Orange County. Ma'am, it is 8 a.m. We need to stop with that talk. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Okay, bye. Hey, thanks for checking this shit show out. If you have an idea you'd like to be featured here, my email is ellaiourbellapodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.